just get this actually announced out to Twitter and stuff. Huh. There we go. Just make sure the link works. Cool. Last time my bit rate was a little too high, so I think 3000 worked. Hopefully it doesn't lag like crazy. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and broadcast this, or announce it out on Twitter real quick, and then can go ahead and get started. Alright, let's make this tweet. That's the link. All right. I know. Sorry, I just turned back to the stream settings. I wasn't looking at my messages. Hopefully that tweet went out. Thanks, man. Yeah, I hope it's awesome. Oh, hey, Ethan, how's it going? Hopefully, I changed the bitrate from last time, so because I know there was a lot of lag and stuttering. Hopefully, there's none of that, since I already changed it from the beginning. So hopefully it's pretty smooth the whole time this time. Alright, looks like, yep. All I gotta do is put it in the Discord and we'll be ready to go. Stream videos. Cool. That's good. Alright. So, we should be alright if there's no lag or anything. I think everything's set up and I put it out everywhere. So, alright. So, today thought we would do a little bit of landscape and kind of terrain building since last time. The previous stream worked on the Electric Cherry store, which actually turned out pretty well. Let me go see if I can show it off. I don't know if I'll have to bake any of the lighting or anything in here. Oh, yes. Wonderful texture probs. I did a port of Shangri-La on Black Ops 3, and a handful of the textures overwrote themselves when I entered the GDT on there, so unfortunately I have to go back and like reapply some textures, which is the most annoying thing on the face of the planet. That's pretty much why I was like an hour late to my stream today, because I like loaded this up and I was like, alright, I'm ready to go, ready to stream. And I loaded in and like half of my textures were missing, and I was like, oh god, not today. Alright. As soon as we get all that straightened out, looks like that's the last one. Or there's probably one more over here, yeah. God, how many volume decals do I have in here? Yeah, we'll just change that. Okay, that should be taken care of now. So yeah, this is what this room kind of foiled into. What's up, Vego? Classic game engine mischief. Yes, Charles. It literally took me an hour to sort through all the asset and texture stuff. It was ridiculous. So I remember in the Tools Discord the other day, Zeroy made a post about some SSR reflection materials. So I just started kind of figuring out how that would go. So I made this reflective floor material that's basically a lit water sim material, and it just reflects perfect reflections off of what was above, and it looks really good. Actually, unfortunately, I can't use this everywhere because it's just gonna dock the performance. But yeah, I think this room came together pretty nicely. It probably still needs some work, but I think from the stream the other day and what we got so far, it looks pretty good. So I thought, like I said, we'll work today on some landscape and some terrain. Probably gonna work over here in this section since I literally have nothing over here. So we'll probably build this building up real quick, and then start doing some terrain. I kind of want some stuff like I have over here. So I kind of showed you guys how I worked with really architectural geometric pieces. And SSR doesn't work in game? I tested it and it works. Oh, really? Huh. I'll have to double check that. I actually haven't ran in there after I compiled it. Testing with it works beautifully in engine, but absolutely broken in game. Huh. Well, thank you, Charles. Yeah, I'll have to go in and check that. If it doesn't work, that sucks because it looks so nice. But I'll get some terrain detail kind of like I have over here, and just kind of show you guys how I work with patches. Alright, so let me get out of this prefab. Alright, I guess we'll just use this as our main prefab over here. It says the stream quality health is low. I hope nobody's like seeing some like absolute crazy stuttering. How long have you been doing the level design? Since birth, for a long time. I can't even remember actually. Oh, those stairs aren't in that prefab. Yeah, I used to just take graph paper and stuff and just draw levels while I was in like elementary school. Can't freaking see anything. It's been a long time. I'm just doing this so I can kind of see everywhere. Mine looks perfect. I'm not seeing any weird stuff. Huh, that's weird. It says the stream quality is like really bad over here on my video output, but I guess it's fine. Yeah, so what I want to do, or at least attempt to finish in this stream, is to kind of get this building blocked out, not actually finished, and then start putting some terrain in over here and showing how I work on terrain patches. Yep, same for me, Virgo. I think the first thing I had was a PlayStation? Or maybe it was a Game Boy, I don't know. It was something like that. And then, yeah, I would just play those non-stop. And I always found myself looking at the levels. I didn't really care about the characters or anything. I mean, they were cool. But I was never a character artist. I used to draw, like, creatures and stuff, but I never wanted to do that in 3D. I hate making 3D characters. It's just too difficult for me to sit down and actually kind of learn that whole thing. Get the surrounding stuff here. Let's save this. That should be everything. Thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Hopefully I'll be streaming for like 3 hours. What did I call this area? I think it was like District 5 or something like that. And then this will be our prefab for the whole area, and then we'll just work in smaller prefabs as we keep going and making more stuff. Because if I don't work in a prefab, there's so much crap in this that if I don't use layers and prefabs, that it's literally too taxing on my PC to even do anything. Alright, now we can just stamp this. So you don't have to worry about this. I don't want these stairs here anymore. I had this idea, making games has changed. Yep. Hey Zilla, how's it going? Literally, I'm that guy in a COD multiplayer match in Black Ops 3 now that you'll see me just off in a corner just staring and seeing how Treyarch built their maps. I'm sure it's funny to some people to just come over and watch me just look down at a rock or a little patch of stuff. Handful of times I don't even play the game, I just see how they made it. Alright, so I had this idea that since we have this robot section over here, I'm gonna have something similar to it, but not a robot. So I'll probably I really want this like bone dragon thing, or there was what was it? There was something in Bloodborne. It was like one of the first bosses on the bridge. I forgot what the name of that thing was. Yeah, that giant creature with a whole bunch of feathers, but it was like type of skeleton stuff. I was gonna see if I could 3D model something like that, give it some animation, and then, yeah, Cleric Beast. And I was gonna have it over here, like kind of just sitting behind this building, maybe like holding on to the chapel. I think that would be pretty cool, and then have like the wasteland below him. So I'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of fill these out. Oh. Oh yeah, I forgot last time. You guys can't see anything I'm doing on this screen. I have to pull this over. Put my texture window over here. Cleric Beast. Yeah, that's alright. So I'm just gonna block this building out. I'm not gonna do anything special with it right now. I know because I'm gonna have this part destroyed right here, and there's gonna be like a tunnel that you can climb up, so I know I don't even want to put any type of time into this. Just wrap this around. I know there's gonna be a tunnel here, so I'm gonna have to wall this off. Usually if I started streaming, I'd have a plan or something already laid out before I started actually creating stuff. So hopefully, I didn't put this in the prefab, did I? Oh, yeah, I did. Hopefully it can get somewhere. So I can freaking see. Alright. Get these lined up. What on earth? Oh, it's the other patch over there. That's right. Okay, so there's gonna be some debris. Don't need that cut through there. There's gonna be some debris right here, so there'll be like probably like a window or something. Put a window right there, and then probably have some kind of maybe a little broken wall right there, and then maybe you can see inside. Maybe I'll put the window right there. Let's start working on that. Of course, that's not in the prefab. We'll go ahead and start building debris around it. Let me get our little models out here. some variation. I'm gonna cut all this off first because this has been bothering me for so long that this hadn't actually gotten completed, and then we'll move on to some of the terrain stuff that I'm gonna work on over there. So I got some pretty cool ideas for what I'm gonna do over here. I'm pretty excited. Yeah, dog. Sweet mother of sexy level design. Thanks, man. I don't want too much over here because it's just gonna get crowded. I'll probably just throw a... Thanks, Steve Warner. Thank you. Hopefully my goal is to get it done. I know it's not gonna happen, but if I can get this done by the end of the year, which is the most insane kind of milestone to put on it, if I can get it done by the end of the year, I'll be happy. But I know since Black Ops 4 and everything else is coming out that that's not gonna happen because I still have to, you know, play it. But I'm hoping to have this done realistically by March or January to March is hopefully the time frame. And if that doesn't get done, then you know what? No, I don't even know. Okay, go ahead and double that. Can probably also show off a little bit of the Blood and Gore asset pack that I've been working on that I'm gonna give to everybody, hopefully within the next couple of weeks or next week. So far the Blood and Gore pack is turning out really well. Really like how it looks. Thanks, man. What percent is it complete at the moment? I've told people that it's really hard for me to kind of guess an exact number. I would say around the mapping portion is around 65 to 70% done. But that obviously, I'm not including any of the clipping I'd have to do or the bug testing. I still have to script it and do all these other sorts of stuff before I could even get onto that. So I'm working 100 hours a week on this, so hopefully that, you know, comes full circle and benefits me later, so I can actually get this done. Yeah, I guess I can go ahead and show a handful of the Blood and Gore asset stuff real quick. I have a couple new ones. Let me just drop down a spotlight here, or a light. It's too bright. So, currently what I have working, I have a handful of things in already. A couple of them I still need to rework, but hopefully I can get 20 of these assets done along with some variants. And then eventually I'll put the pack out. I'll put a link on my Twitter or something. Or like have, if you want it, like just DM me and I'll give you the link. They'll all be set up so that you just have to drag and drop it into your map source and model export files. So it can, you know, be as easy and seamless as possible. But so far, we got a couple things. I got this corner piece done, so you can like shove this up into like a corner. So like at a 90 degree, and then you can blend it with this material because I included the material as a separate texture, so you can use that as a decal reveal and kind of blend it around. We got this one so far. It's kind of just like a pile. Unfortunately, I exported it in the wrong angle, so you had to like rotate it around, but we got that guy. So that's good for just making like piles around. It's kind of like debris chunks. So you can kind of litter that around and then blend it with the material. I have this one that's kind of like cave stalag, whatever. So I think that'll be pretty cool in some cases. And then I got this guy took forever to sculpt, but this like egg sack looking thing, which is pretty cool. So hopefully I can make enough of these and enough variants that people can use these just to make, you know, like that Dead Space vibe maps and stuff. And then they'll all have their separate variants. Like I was gonna make an alien skin one that was like green and blue or something like that. So hopefully everybody gets a good use out of those come the time that I release it, which will be pretty cool. Alright, let me go ahead and kind of finish this off real quick, just so we can have this blocked in. Alright, so usually what I do when starting an area that has absolutely nothing in it, because usually doing that is very, you know, it's daunting. Nobody ever wants to go in blind to try and figure out what they're going to do. So beforehand, I'll usually make kind of like a sketch on paper and kind of figure out what I was going to do beforehand. So I got a general idea of what this area is going to look like and stuff. Yeah, I definitely looked up a bunch of games that's centered around Blood and Gore, like Doom, for that Blood and Gore pack, so hopefully that comes in handy for a lot of people. So this, I think, leads up and around up to the top, so you'll be able to come around here. And I want just that, you know, destroyed, chaotic wasteland so type of stuff like we have over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing that. Get this building blocked out the rest of the way. I want to get rid of that. I can't see anything. It's gonna come in. Yeah. Don't need this anymore, so I can just delete it because I've already used it. Oops. I really wish I would have made this into a prefab so I could have easily taken it out. That's not what I wanted. I could have just drawn a box over this and clicked select all, but it's already too late for that. This has literally been sitting here since I created the map. Maybe, Charles. Maybe. How long have you been using Radiant? So when the Black Ops 3 tools, when the tools for the Radiant for Black Ops 3 came out, is when I first started using it. I didn't use the World at War tools because it was back in, I didn't even remember when it came out. I don't know if it was with the release of World at War But I remember because when I opened it, I had no experience in 3D whatsoever, so I opened it and it was like the scariest program I'd ever seen. And I was like, I'm not even gonna mess with this. But when 3 came out, I'd already been in school for a little bit, and I thought I could, I could learn it. So I've been using it since 2016. I think that's when it came out, like mid 2016. And I've been working on this map since, kind of. I had a couple of projects at the beginning, but not as many as this one. Alright. So, I want to patch here. And then once we get kind of like to right here, at this point, I want it to break away and kind of start to get destroyed. I'll have to clear all this out later. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll do that off stream because that'll be so boring to watch. Is my grid like not? No, I have the weird grid size set up. That's weird. That's gonna suck. Before, no, Radiant was my first engine, so I've only been using like engine tools for almost a little under 2 years, so about a year and 9 months. I've used UE4 now, but this was my first engine I ever used, which was pretty cool. I think the reason I like this more than UE4 is because this engine is built specifically to make a certain type of game, like zombies and stuff. And UE4 is to make, anything you want, so it's a lot. UE4 gives you a lot more freedom with the genres and types you can do, but I feel like Radiant gives you more power when it comes to creating specifically these types of games. Alright, so let's drop our little guy in here. For size comparison. Well, I had never used an engine before, but I'd played games like Little Big Planet. I'd used a lot of like creative type of stuff before making levels. So I'm pretty much, I guess the only reason I am where I am with this engine is because I've put like 2,400 hours into it. It's what I do every day. Alright, so now we can finally get into the terrain building. So this is where I want to have like this giant quarry space. So we'll be working with terrain. We'll be mixing terrain in with models, and then blending. I'll show you what I do to blend with stuff. We'll use volume decals, and pretty much everything that I do to kind of get that really flowy design for all that type of stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to have the stairs come down a little bit more. Maybe I'll have like a ledge here. So I'm going to do exactly what I did in last stream and block stuff out, so I get a general idea of where my stuff's going to be. Even though it's going to be terrain, I still like to have kind of general shapes of where I have. Yeah, we did all start in Maya. God. I remember the first time we opened up Maya. Opening up Maya was so confused. Like the first, I don't even know how long, year or two I was using it. I remember Maya destroyed all my belief in becoming a 3D artist because the learning curve was so steep. I hated it so much when I started. Alright, so I'm gonna get a range of assets that I'm going to use to build this. So I used a lot of concrete over in the other one. I used a lot of dirt chunks. So I'm gonna put them all on a patch over here, and then I'll reference that as I'm building to kind of keep some consistency. Yeah, that's gross. I don't want that. I just need something plain. Okay. So let me put this right here so you guys can see my model search. I do want dirt. This cob slide's always good. This dirt pile is nice. Then I use a lot of mud. All these are from World War II. So if you have that game and you have Wraith, you can pull all these assets from that, and that's where I get most of mine. So I'll just have these assets here, and then I'll reference them in my all in use tab, so I can find everything very easily. Just go ahead and delete that. So that'll be my debris pile. So I'll leave that in here. And then when I start using all of those, I can get rid of those. Alright. I'm gonna pull this out a little more. And we'll cut this. We could have a broken piece right here. People can run around and go down. And then there'll be some tunnels down here. There's going to be a giant pit. And then there could be like a slide or something down right here. Which means we need to have another pillar chunk. Stretch over to here. The building will be a little bit elongated. And then we'll have concrete, a path down, and then we'll have the pit down there. That'll be nice. Okay. So now that we kind of got our basic little block out, I know it doesn't look like much, but having this stuff here to reference to while you're building your more intense details is always a really good foundation. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this broken piece. If you have Maya and ZBrush, I found making concrete chunks really useful. So I made my own concrete broken wall. And I'll have to go through and retopologize this because this is way too many polys for what it's being used for. But that's simple, so I can just go back into Ape and replace the LOD. So I can go ahead and put it here and then just replace it later because it won't matter that much. So I made this so I wouldn't have to keep using those two concrete chunk groups over again. And it makes everything a lot easier when it comes to doing stuff like this. Of course, I'll just delete all these temporary lights after I've actually made the scene, because we don't actually want these here. These are just to help me see. So we'll have a broken wall right here. It'll be kind of destroyed. Where's our guy? I want people to be able to run through here and down, but people will also be able to run straight through the middle part of this building and up. So there's going to be a lot of verticality in this area, which I'm really excited about. So this area should be pretty cool. It should be really confusing too, but if you learn it, I think it'll be a pretty neat area. So I'm going to cut this back a little bit, because I know it's going to slope down right here. And then we'll finally start using a terrain patch. And I'll show you guys kind of what I do to make my terrain stuff. First I gotta block out one more little part. Move these away. Those over here. Just get a wood texture real quick, or a concrete, something just for the time being. No, I'll just keep it like that. We don't need anything fancy in the building right now since we're not working on it. We just need it for reference because we know the player's going to be using it. So I need to know where that floor is going to cut off and where that path is going to be before I build this. So as long as we come up enough, I'm pretty sure we'll have enough space to go down here. So I think that's the one. Yeah. No, it's the wrong one. 7, 3. So I usually do a 3 or a 2 wide terrain patch with a bunch of subdivisions long ways, so I can kind of block out the basic path for the terrain that's going down, and then I go back in, I'll subdivide it later and add the detail then, so I don't have to pull a whole bunch of vertices around while I'm doing that. And then we can just line this up with this later. We don't have to make it perfect at first. First I want, I think, let's see here. So I made a whole array of custom textures. Just type in custom, got all of these. Pretty much what I did is I looked in the editor and found all the stuff that it really was kind of missing for my taste. You can just go online and go to free texture giving websites, find textures that are seamless, and then make really easy materials out of those. So what I like to do is use this. A couple of these ground textures, which are really nice. This one's always good. That's always good for some destroyed stuff. I use that pretty much everywhere. Let's pull this down. Make sure it's at least level with it. There we go. Now we can start bending terrain around this. So we'll get the general shape from a bird's eye view. I always like to do this so I know where the curve is going. And then after that we can edit the elevation of it. So we know kind of how and where it's going to curve to, and then we'll go through and decide how high and where it should end up at. Which I know I want it to curve down that way. And maybe we'll keep a straight part over here. So we'll have 3 levels of elevation, one that goes down from the building that goes up, and one that stays the same in the middle. We'll have like 3 different choices, which should create for a pretty hectic area. Alright. Let's get our little guy over here and see what the size comparison is. That's perfect. Now, after we have kind of set our direction for this, we'll go ahead and change the elevation to where we kind of want our lowest point. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple more of these. So now I want it to come out just a little bit over here. We'll just fix the texture. There we go. Alright, now we'll just bring it down. We don't want it to go too low because I know there's going to be a basement part over here. So we'll probably want it at the same level that this is at. Which is probably going to be too much of a decline for this ramp. So we might have to make a couple adjustments after the ramp is over. We don't want ramps to be too steep. Otherwise, sometimes pathing with zombies gets really confused when the path's too vertical. So we don't want to keep ramps to be too steep. Yeah, this is already too low. Bring this down just a little bit more. So that's not too bad for an elevation, so the player can actually see where they're going. There's no cutoff point. So it doesn't look like you're going to slide down it, otherwise we'd probably put a slick clip on here. We want them to know that they can walk up and down this platform. And we don't want it to go down too low so that they can't even see the end. That would be... Let's bring another light over here. So this will be going through the building and ending up down here, which will kind of put a little bit of the destroyed quarry feel. I might change this because I know that I'm going to want a pathway to get around there. So we'll probably put a curve there and a jump off point like right there. Let's level this out a little bit. Let's add one more row so we can blend this out a little bit. Alright, now that we got our basic path, it's easy to see up to where we're going, and easy to see down of where we're going to be. Now we can go in and kind of tweak the surrounding terrain, because this building is going to be destroyed, so we're going to have to build the building around this. So we're gonna have to create a destroyed corner piece right here, because the path will be going through it. And then we can kind of shape the surrounding terrain to our path that we have here. Usually I don't build my surrounding terrain first, because then the player paths are confined to what I've built as my surrounding terrain, which usually isn't designed specifically for people to run around. So I always build my paths first that I know the player is going to be on, and then I decorate and make the scenic parts second, so I know that the design works first before the actual decoration does. Alright, so now we can work on the building a little more, because we know we're going to have this destroyed kind of corner piece over here. So I'll pull this over here for reference. I don't need those patches. So originally, the pillar would have been right there. Got that lined up, okay. So the pillar would have been right here if the building were still intact. Obviously, that's not going to be there anymore. So we need to create a broken concrete chunk kind of sort of deal right here, with some support beams still going down, otherwise the house wouldn't still be standing. So we can leave a little bit of this here. We might want to take out the piece and that piece, but we can leave the brick, because that's still part of the main structure. And then we'll build kind of the concrete destroyed debris parts around it. That's high enough so that the player can't jump and hit their head on it anyways. So let's bring this wall over here. And then we'll put a wall over here for reference. These are all reference walls, so I'm not going to be actually using these in the final construction of it. These are just here to help me visualize where the walls would be. So, now I can just bring this up. Actually, I might want to pull it over. I want there to be enough room for the player to feel comfortable walking down it. This isn't going to be a tight pathway. So that's it. That's about a good amount of space. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and put in those concrete chunk pieces, and later I'll go back and I'll remake them in ZBrush so that I know they'll be better optimized. Player pass over everything. Because if it's not fun, then why the heck am I making it? It's exactly what happened with those other two maps way back at the beginning that I thought were so good, and then I played it and it wasn't really that fun. So the moment we get these pieces lined up, we can kind of start making our wall here. Go into no shadow. So the wall's going to be broken right here. And we have to make sure where the path is that the player has enough space to actually be on the ground without running into the ceiling, because we don't want their head clipping through. So that's about where they'll be. We'll do that as safe measure. So yeah, that'll be good. They can jump and hit it. That's not going to matter because, you know, that's their fault. They jumped into it. We don't want them running into it by accident and have it be the developer's fault that they're hitting something. Is it? I don't know if I remembered that map. It wasn't the underground one. What was it? Because I remember it was super hard. And all we would do is run around that one little area. Because I didn't have any of the walls scripted or anything. So we'll kind of want it to come up. We don't want it to go back down, because then we'll have to put more support down below. So whatever it was that made this hole is going to be up here. Because if we had the concrete coming back down here, that would give way that there's more weight being put and more support being put on this pillar. So it wouldn't really make sense that this would be hovering right here. So we'll put some support beams on the side where the player path isn't, to make more sense for the destroyed paths. It was a big figure 8 with a bridge. Oh. Yeah. We took one step back and the game ended. Because it was outside the player volume. I'll use this piece. I hate using these because I see them literally in every single map I've ever played. And it's like, oh, they just used the concrete pieces again. So that's why I like to model kind of like new versions of it. Plus it's easier just to put one down that makes a huge hole than to spend all this time remaking all these structures out of it. Plus it saves polys, because you don't see any of these polys that are on the inside here. They clip through. So I know it looks, I know it looks ugly right now, but that's our basic block out of what we're going to have as our destroyed concrete piece. And then we'll use brushes up here to kind of pull that up to make the wall make sense. So we also have to remember that players will be able to walk through here and they'll be able to walk up. So we need another hole up here. Oh, new subscription. Thank you. I thought you were already... Oh, maybe that was the other channel, Charles. I was like, I thought you were already on my list. So, yeah, there'll be a path for players to walk up to here also. So we'll have to... It's going to be really, really interesting to get this weird looking destroyed floor. Because there's going to be a lot of space in between here. But there's also... It's going to be very crammed because these two paths are very close to each other. So we have to figure out a way how to make it make sense, to make it look pleasing, and also to make it fun all at the same time. Which usually, to make something fun and to make something look realistic usually don't go well together. Because typically, if you make something actually realistic, it's not built for a game mode. It's not built for a video game. It's built for a real life purpose. So kind of mixing those two together is really weird. So we'll try as best we can to kind of get that look we're going for. So this like labyrinth of paths and terrains and stuff. The other channel, I have like 4 other YouTube channels. So we'll just recopy this over to the other side, since we know that all these concrete chunks are aligned, and then we can edit them over here to make it look like we didn't just copy and paste it. So we'll get rid of that one. You know, I'm just gonna delete that for right now. And then we'll just rotate these around to kind of get a different view than what we have over here. We'll raise it up, lower it a little bit, so it's not completely the same. I'll have a little bit of it sticking out, maybe. Whoa. And we'll just pull this guy over. Yeah, we'll rotate him around a little bit, see what we can get. That looks fine. And then we'll just rotate this guy up and pull him down. So that's considerably different than what it is over here. This is gonna be real rough trying to get all this to make sense. There's so much going on. I think I can do it though. It's just gonna take a lot of time. Because I know somewhere over here, in the middle of all this mess, I built I'm gonna have an Shadows of Evil type teleporters that works. I don't know if I'm gonna have 2 of them or 3 of them, but I started modeling this kind of Stargate looking thing. Let's see if it loads perfectly. This might be a little too big for what I'm showing right here, but oh. So let's just copy and paste. Unfortunately, I had to export all of these as separate meshes so I could actually get a decent looking mesh out of this. Let's put a spotlight because you can't even see it. There we go. So this is going to be... I started making this mesh, or this asset the other day in Maya and ZBrush. And hopefully, after I polish it up some more, it'll become a teleporter that people can use throughout the map, which will be pretty cool. So you guys can see it in all its glory. So that's what I came up with for right now. It's still a work in progress, but this will be like a kind of what the teleporters look like. And you'll be able to walk up to it. There'll be like a swirly texture in here, and I think I got this title. So it's Gregory Stargates. I don't think I'm going to keep that pink. I don't necessarily like that a lot because it reminds me too much of freaking Infinite Warfare zombies, and I hated that. I didn't hate it, I just didn't think it was... I don't know. I just thought it was weird. I'll probably change that. Actually, I could change it right now. Whoa. So we pull this over. Look for our Stargate. Open up our Stargate text. Then we can just go into the material that I made and just edit this. That should make it more red. We'll just save it. There we go. That's more what I was thinking. So it kind of goes with the rest of the theme for the map. Since I got those kind of neon signs around everywhere. That's laggy. So it'll be like this green portal, and you'll be able to kind of use these. You'll see it. You'll know what it is across from the map if you've used it once, because the title will be real big. But I want one of those over here somewhere, so you'll be able to see it. We'll just move that guy around. Try to get this leather. All right. We'll just have this guy wait over here for us. And we'll come back to him when he's ready. Still have to get everything working. Right now everything's just a mesh. I think that'd be cool to have over there somewhere. Alright. So now we have to mesh the walls, make sure they make sense. We'll go back through and like with places kind of like these, where the meshes kind of overlap over each other, we'll just blend that out with some decals. Can I get that all sorted through? Yeah. So let's go ahead and start building the walls up. No, I don't want this white painted brick because it's kind of gross. So we'll change that. Get a nice damage texture. That's a little better for what we're doing. I don't want these to be that concrete texture because that doesn't work as well. This is more like just a regular use building, not a factory looking building. So I guess we could keep it brick for now. That looks fine. And then over here, we'll have to have brick, and then we'll have to blend it to like a concrete texture. So right here, probably just make multiple brushes. Just use the same one and we'll cut it up. So kind of where we need it to bend, we'll make some subdivisions over here, or cut up the brush. And then we'll kind of level it to where we need it to be, and then cut it further along the side. So there's somewhere I'd probably make a cut for, because I don't want to make a whole nother brush patch. So we'll just make a triangle portion right there. Pull that one out. Pull this guy one more. Yep, he's hidden. Okay, so Now we'll just come over here and we'll make sure that we have that space kind of figured out. So it's right here. So we'll do that, and then we'll create another crease right here. And we'll just delete this bottom one. Now we have 3. Does that even show up there? Huh. I can actually delete that one behind. Alright, so now that we have our wall that's like, you know, it makes sense. It curves with what the wall is going to be. Now we can go through and we can start blending it. We can start changing our textures to kind of make sense that it's concrete that's broken. And then we'll go through, and since this is too much of a damaged portion of the building for it to make sense that it's still standing up here, we'll add some rebar beams that are coming down in between here, that kind of help give it that more sturdy, that it's still standing there look. So what we can do is we'll go ahead and we'll take these patches that I made here. We'll turn them into faces to terrain. I made shortcuts on these, so putting anything up here in the toolbar has saved me so much time. I think Joe Trosis put up a tutorial video the other day, and he just mentioned that I can put all these other functions up there on the toolbar, and it saved me so much time. So then we'll just go through and we'll double the patch real quick. It doesn't need to be anything too complicated, because we're just making a decal. So anything we can put on the wall, like damaged concrete, damaged anything like that, will always be good for what we're trying to blend right here. So typically I don't like the damaged blend concrete textures on here because they all look just so fucking weird. I did not want a patch there. I'm gonna make sure there's enough up here where I can actually blend out a decal. Or you know what I could do? Is actually delete all these, create this one that's just a face to terrain, pull this all the way over here. Since these are going to be meshed together, nobody's really going to notice this. Then we could just double this. Oh, we could just double this patch a bunch, and then we could just pull this up. Huh. That way we don't have that confusing arc looking thing over here. I didn't know how I was going to work around that. I'll just pull these up a little bit. I think this is the one without the gloss. Yeah, that one's way better. So we'll go through and we'll kind of not delete, but lower the influence up top, and we'll kind of make it a little bit greater down here to make it look like the concrete's actually worn around the edges. And then we'll go through with volume decals, and we'll kind of get that sorted away so we can blend the model actually with the wall itself. It looks pretty good so far. It's looking like it makes sense a little bit. So now we can take a volume decal, and I gotta find out, there it is. I remember the advanced patch editing tool. I never understood how this actually worked. So we'll see if we can get this to work or not. If not, I'm just going to put a couple of them on here and figure it out later. Alright, let's see if I can get this to work. See, it's always pink, and I remember in Joe Trosis's video that there was white boxes on here, but I don't remember how to actually get to where that... Because it didn't give me a brush for that. Yeah. I'll just stick to just a couple of patches for right now, and I'll figure out how to do that later. That tool's always been confusing for me. But I'll have to go back and watch Joe's video again. Then we'll just apply our same concrete texture, and we'll feather it out a little bit. We'll make it a little bit bigger. That way we have the texture bleeding onto the actual model itself and onto the wall. It'll just help it give it a little bit more of a seamless look. Rotate this guy a little bit. There we go. So now it's seamless with this. We might use another volume decal up here to add a burn texture, because you know something happened here, so we have to put some remnants of what the cause of this kind of hole in the house had. Let's put another one over here. I won't make it too huge, but that's pretty good. And then we could go through later, and then we can blend some more of that in, kind of get that figured out. But that's how I kind of do most of my walls that are kind of destroyed. So just pretty simple, just a couple of models, some volume decals and some textures, and you just blend it out. So now, I'm trying to think of what I want over here with this. So I know this is going to be destroyed, so I'm not going to have these here anyways. We'll pull this up and bring our little guy over here for a size comparison. We'll pull these back. This is going to be broken away. I don't think that's big enough. This is also way too thick. But we'll go ahead and start building our terrain patch right here, and then kind of we'll see where it goes from there. I don't don't think this is gonna look right over here, but we'll try it. It looks alright. Obviously it's meshed too much in with the... I'll have to create a different mesh right here for it to actually make sense. But I like how it looks. We'll keep that kind of the whole caved feel, and then we'll pull this up out later. Yeah, I'll just leave that there for right now. I know it's clipping through, but we can fix that all later. Now, what I like to do is if I know I have the same elevation change or a good patch that's with terrain, I always copy it and then just reuse it somewhere else. Because I already know that this patch has good elevation, has a good step up. It's not too high, so I know it'll work well anywhere else I put it. So because of this right here, we'll need to lower it a little bit more. Otherwise, when you're coming back down this way, it'll be a little bit too close to this roof. And just as I thought, it came up pretty much exactly where I needed it to be. So if you have patches other places that you know have good elevation and that would kind of work the same way in other places, just reuse them. It'll save you so much time. If you want to recreate and readjust your elevation for other areas, just reuse it. Can't explain how many times I've reused my own stuff that I've made in here. Just making tool sets, like making prefabs with existing lights that already have certain parameters on them, so you don't have to retype in the parameters. Like if you have I don't know, like a blinking light, a spotlight or something, and you know you're going to be making a lot of spotlights, just go ahead and make that light into a prefab. So you can go around and stamp it, so everything is already the way you know it is, because you already worked on it before. Just some simple ways you can save time with certain stuff. I'll pull this over a little more. And it's starting to get a little too steep, and I don't like that. So I might pull this outside a little more. That looks about right. Just have to pull this guy up just a little bit more. I don't want to pull him too high, because then we're going to run into the same issues that I was talking about earlier with having patches that go up way too high, and then we'll have nav mesh issues, which nobody wants that. So I think that's okay. We can always go back and tweak it later, but it's a good template for what I want it to be in the end. So there'll be a broken part of the building. You can go through here, and then you can come around to this side. You can also go through here, which now, after I've built this top path, I've noticed that it's cutting into what I've already made over here. So if you're dealing with multiple elevation changes, that's something you always need to be aware of, is that if you make one floor, it's going to interact heavily with something else that you've made. So I'm going to have to go back through and adjust this. And now I'm going to have to probably pull this out more if I want this bottom piece to work, which I do. So Unfortunately, we have to figure out another way around that. Which is probably going to just lead out to me pulling it out more. And then just creating more of a surface to go up it. Which I think will work out just fine. So now we're already getting a little bit too steep. Usually anything above like 15 or 20 degrees is a little too much. So it's probably going to come out to here, which is quite a long ways, which sucks. It's going to be even. But you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So we'll pull this guy up, because we're gonna need some more headspace there. We'll naturalize this. We'll put another subdivision in here so it's a little smoother. And we'll pull this guy down just a little bit. Alright, that's alright. It's a little bit better. It's not exactly what I had in mind to begin with, but sometimes that's never usually how my maps go. I'm always changing everything I made as a plan initially. That's pretty cool. We'll drop down this middle row to kind of give it that concaved feel, that it's actually dipping. And eventually, this isn't going to be just all mud, because it's going to be a second floor of a building, so we'll have to transition into some kind of floor up here. So we'll create another kind of destroyed piece of flooring up here. There's going to be, wow, there's going to be destroyed pieces of floor everywhere. It's going to be one confusing building to make, and to make it work well. We'll see where it goes. So let's check the headspace over here. I'm just gonna duplicate this and flip the texture so we can kind of visualize just a little bit of where we're gonna be. And obviously it's not going to be up against it. The ceiling's going to be just a little bit lower. We might actually have to drop, because that's coming real close to this ceiling. I don't want people to feel claustrophobic when they, you know, come over here to this area. I want them to feel like they could comfortably just run down this path rather than going, oh no, I'm not gonna bother with it. So, that might be something I test in game, because I can only visualize so much right here. Because the player's head's gonna be right here, so there's gonna be like a foot of space in between that. That'll probably work. Let's go ahead and keep building up on the exterior here. Making sure it's in line with our model, so we know that it'll be easy to blend. That works. Fortunately, we don't have to do any cutting right here, because the concrete, oh, the concrete pretty much lines up with everything else. Which sucks, I might have to. It's a little tiny space. No, we're good. All right. So we'll pull this guy up. It's looking good so far. So we'll have to pull these guys up over here. Get rid of these. I wonder if I can just... no. I know I want a window here, so that light can come through and kind of hit a spotlight here, so that when people are down here, they'll see that beam and kind of get them interested to what's up there. So... oh god, my grid size is so wrong. I hate working at small grid sizes, because then you gotta spend all this time to make everything else so exact. There. Let's copy and paste this over here. Make sure we got enough space for the window. So we'll have a window there. We don't have to work on that right now. We just know that we've reserved a space for it, so we won't build anything else there. So we can go ahead and keep working on this kind of destroyed wall. I kind of want to get this one finished, at least in the stream, so can kind of show you guys what a finished wall piece actually looks like, and then kind of visualize it throughout the rest of the building. So I know I want some rebar. Typically, I don't use models to build structure of buildings. So I use patches so I can get the most control out of it, but we'll see what we can get out of this. Currently, I really don't like how that looks. And I don't think I have a long enough piece of rebar to where I can use a model to kind of sort this out. Yeah. So if there's no models that I can use currently, I'll use models to decorate it. There's always a texture for something that you can recreate. So I'm gonna search for a rebar texture or a metal rung, something like that. Then what we can do is we can create our own cylindrical patches and create our own little rebar structure here and not be confined to what the model is. Trying to find a model texture that, or a texture that has some like rings in it. Might be a trim brush that does that. Not entirely sure. This isn't rebar. Yeah, something like that. That's pretty good. We can pass that off as like a metal rebar thing. So what we can do is we can make a cylinder, and it should have that texture going all the way around. Yeah. So now it looks like a rebar pole, but now since it's not a model, we can actually edit and manipulate it so that it works for our design rather than what the model wants to work for. So usually creating patches like this is always better than using models and relying on what models can make for you. Use models to polish, not to create. That rebar is a little too big. Let's make it a little smaller. That's pretty good. So we'll pull this guy down. We'll naturalize him so that the texture is uniform across the whole thing. Wouldn't want that looking weird. It's a little shiny for what I want. Is there a pattern on here? Huh. Let's see if we can find anything else that looks better. Again, I don't want to spend all my time looking for a texture. I'll do that off a stream, but I want to see if I can find anything that kind of looks similar to rebar. So the only rebar texture I have, that's pretty cool. The only rebar texture I have is a decal. We'll just stick with that for right now. So what we can do is we can copy these over and create our own sets of rebar. And then if we want to, which is really cool with cylindrical patches, we can bend and kind of break away pieces. And that way it kind of looks more that, you know, it's been destroyed, but it's still standing. So we can put a piece over here. And one more over here. I think that's even. And then usually what I do is I like to create some kind of variation, so this one will be broken. So we'll put him right there. And then we'll create one more on this side, and he'll be broken too, to kind of add some, kind of get rid of that repetitive look. So we'll go through and we'll make small changes here and there, but not anything too drastic that it doesn't look like it wouldn't happen. So that looks good so far. Now we can go through, since they're cylindrical patches, and we can bend them to what we want. So I'm going to cap these first, because with cylindrical patches they don't come pre-capped, so we can just put those on there. And we can bump that up. And then we'll have to go back up and delete that extra cap that was up there, but we'll do that later. Grab this, make sure that works. Just delete that guy because nobody's going to see him. He's going to be in the ground. And you know what? I might cap this after I move it. Actually, it looks way better. Let's see if we can make that. Just trying to get this texture a little more squished so it looks a little more realistic. There we go. That's pretty cool. Might be a little too much. 0.7. That's a little better. Let's go through and we'll naturalize all of these to that. Get that consistent texture across all of it. Oh, hey Leespawn! How's it going? So now we can push and pull these patches so that it looks like it was destroyed, but not too much. So we'll go down here, we'll grab the top. And I kind of want this arching over a little bit into this. And maybe with that creature I talked about, I was going to make at the beginning of the stream, came over here and like ripped the building out. So with that, we can make it so that everything that has been destroyed here is pulled out back into the environment and not pushed in, because it was grabbed and pulled. So we'll make everything that's destroyed here kind of mimic that situation. So we'll grab and we'll pull everything out this way. Kind of a little bit over to where the player is going to be. That's pretty good. Now we'll rotate that just a little bit. So get the texture to be uniform. There we go. Now we are already creating, instead of having these models here and just copying and pasting and making these larger and working around the model, now we can basically create our own look with the same. People will still know it's rebar, but it'll be designed towards the situation rather than the model itself. I want this to kind of pull in a little bit to this. Kind of think of the creature came, stuck his hand in here, pulled out. So a couple of these will be mushed together and also pulled out towards the right a little bit. So we can do the same thing with this guy. We'll kind of pull him out this way. We'll make him a little bit closer to that one. And then we'll pull, to get some variation, we'll pull this guy a little more this way. So we'll have some kind of bends and differences in the structure. We might pull this over top too, to kind of get some variation up there. That's looking good so far. So then we also have some variation within the line, because people will also be able to see it this way. So maybe we should pull this one out a little bit more. And this one back here, we'll pull it in, but not too much. That way people can see some kind of depth to what we have here, instead of just the same repeated pull over and over again. Making sure we're working in chunks of 3 or 5 in odd numbers. So I'll never have 4 rods coming down. That's why I cut this one here and cut this one here, because if there's a chunk of 4 or any even groups, usually doesn't look as good as odd number things. So usually the eye is more attracted to groups of 3 or 5 or 7. And all it depends on where you place them too. So this will be more attractive that they're broken up into these types of groups. So when I release my map, you'll see literally groups of 3 and 5 kind of scattered throughout. If you actually go around and analyze it on how I built it, usually there's never a group of 4 or 2 objects together. There's always a group of 5. And if there's a group of 2 objects, like these crates here, I'll put a third object in the middle to kind of balance it. I would never leave 2 or 4 objects alone together. So we'll pull this guy over. I kind of want one more. Broken one. We'll make this guy kind of weird over here. We'll pull him to the side, and we'll make him come out this way towards the viewer on this side. Whoa. Okay. It's sticking out, so I'm going to pull that back just a little bit. Find this and pull this down so it kind of makes sense. There we go. It's a little bit thin, but I'm not going to worry about making that perfect right now. Now we got some differences there. We'll go ahead and cap that. Make it so it fits that. There we go. So now that's a little more interesting right there. We can see some differences the group of 3 over here. And then its balancing counterparts over here is really good. And I think that looks pretty good. So now we can build kind of this destroyed rubble pieces down here. I know that this path up here is going to curve off. This won't be dirt, this will be wood chunks. So there's going to be wooden support beams. Let's see if there's a model for that. There's a few. I don't know how this one looks. Let's bring this out in the light. That's alright. I think that'll work for what we're trying to do. So I want to make sure that I have all of this figured out in here before I actually keep going. I know with this building, there's going to be a ton of adjustments that I'm going to have to go back and make, because this is such a weird situation to make things work properly. So there's going to be a lot of reworking. I'll have to lower things, I'll have to go back and rework some stuff. That's a lot of the types of stuff that I had trouble with a while ago. When building maps, is that I would build one thing and I would be like, alright, that's good, I'm never touching that again. And then when I went to play it, like my first project I made in the Radiant Tools, it wasn't really that fun. So pretty much every area that I have around here in the Isles map, I've built, destroyed, and rebuilt again at least 3 to 4 times. And that's probably why it's taking me so long for me to actually finish the level, is because I see flaws and I want to go back and fix them because I know that it could be better. But eventually you'll have to find a point where you don't do that all the time. You kind of just cut your loss and cut things from your map. Usually that's the worst part, is to actually get rid of something you worked on for so long and you know you spent all this time on it, but if it doesn't work with the design, it's not going to help the surrounding stuff that you actually do like and actually works well. So cutting things from your map, even if it's not what you want to do, is it's a very mature decision in level design. And it's still something I have trouble with. Like, I need to cut areas. I'm down to the point where I'm not adding any more areas anymore. Which, that was scary. Every time I would see something, I'd be like, oh, something would look good right there, something would look good right there. And eventually I had to quit doing that, because if I was going to keep adding areas, I'd probably work on this for at least, like, I don't know, 4 years and never get it done. So this is where that part of that caved in part will come. I can already tell that this is too close to the player. I already knew I was going to have to change a little bit of that. So I'll do that off stream, but this will be the basic shape of what it's going to be like. That looks pretty good so far. It's just like last stream, I never want to bake the lighting for the sun because it makes it glitch out and freak out, and sometimes I don't know if the stream's gonna die. So we'll have these, you know, imperfect light displays kind of throughout the stream, which kind of sucks, but there's just too much in the map for me to feel comfortable with compiling and building lighting on stream. But we'll kind of get this basic shape here. I'll go back and edit that later, but that's kind of what I want. So you'll be able to see this part of the building right here, and it's kind of broken away. And you don't know which way is going to go where. Like you'll go down this way, and you'll come out and you see that there's a pathway up top, and then you realize that you could go up here. And if you decide to run up here, you'll be able to see down to this path and be like, oh, maybe I want to go down there. Just creating a whole bunch of decisions over here, I think will be really fun and exciting. So I like the way that this looks so far. I can see what it would look like finished and polished, so I like how it looks, and design-wise I think it'll play well. Because the path is big enough to where that two people can comfortably walk across without touching. So that means you'll be able to juke and dodge a zombie there. It'll be a little bit difficult, but nothing too crazy. And then there'll be a couple areas where it's going to be real tight. Some little pathways that you probably won't be able to dodge a zombie unless you're really good at playing the game. So I want to offer those choices to people to have multiple paths to go, and to give the player the choice whether they want to go a certain way or not. So, I would think that the building would have a basement. We won't see the basement, but we'll know it's down there, so we can build more of a concrete destroyed piece right here. So we will know that the building goes down farther than what it is right here. So let's go ahead and kind of build down with this so we can get a reference point. We'll put a guy kind of over here to visualize the ceiling is tall enough, about two people. That's so good. Maybe a little bit shorter than that. Now, what we can do is, I think I can just copy these, put them down here. And since we don't see the tops of these, this will look brand new and not repetitive, since we won't see the bottom of these either. So I don't want this to run into the player's view, or pathway, so to speak. I want that to kind of be something they just see but not interact with. So the path, this doesn't come here. I'm going to give the player as much room as possible, but also make them feel like they don't have a lot of room. Kind of trick them into thinking that, to kind of build some stress, and to create some anxiety. So we'll drop this brick thing back down. I'll have to create another one of those, since it'll be different. Does that come out? Now I've thought about it, I will connect these so these won't even be here. So I don't have to worry about that. So we'll stretch that over, and we'll do the same exact thing that we did up top. Nothing too crazy. We'll just cut the patch, or cut the brush a couple times so that we can get our angles properly sorted out so it doesn't bleed through. So it bleeds through there, and it bleeds through here. So we can take this patch, we'll drop it down so that it's not visible up here. We'll take this patch and we'll cut it so that's not visible. Now that we know that the concrete is already lined up with this brick texture, because we did the same thing up there, and now we'll repeat the same blending process that we did up there down here. Except this time we will layer dirt onto it as well, because it's going to be down here near the ground. And that way, we can build up some piles with these stuff over here that I saved. So, we'll take these. Oh, take this, make it a face to terrain. We'll stretch it to the size of the patch, and then we'll double it a couple times, and we'll make sure that this patch isn't bleeding out of that. So whenever we put our decals on, it's all lined up just like the brick is. And we gotta be careful not to crush it too much so it doesn't get too stretched and distorted when we naturalize the texture. So that's pretty good. We'll bring these up to kind of help support this up here. And then all we gotta do is bring this up, I think. Just a couple more notches. Bring these guys up. Oh, thanks for subscribing, Leafs One. Appreciate it. Hopefully I can start doing streams more often, because I like doing this type of stuff. Hopefully show you guys kind of the end mapping process for the entire map, since I built most of it, you know, in hiding. So now we just sample. Let's get rid of these volume decals. We'll sample our destroyed concrete tile texture. So we'll grab that. We'll grab this material here, and it should put it down here. And now we can do the same thing that we did up top and blend all the nodes together. So we'll take these and we'll make sure that the concrete's only visible kind of around this area. So we'll take our G vertex color and alpha editing and pull that down. There we go. So now we got that little portion done. We can take a volume decal that we have up here. I'll go back and change this to one volume decal and figure out how to use the advanced patch editing tool to paint it, because that'll be better than using two. I can just use one volume decal. And this, like I said before, we can use this to help blend the model with the actual wall, so we don't see the model's seam anywhere. Concrete. I'm gonna find this texture just so I can renaturalize it. And then we'll pull it down here, rotate it to size, and there we go. So now that seam with the concrete model is blended with the wall with help of that. And we won't ever be down at this angle anyways, because there's going to be dirt down here and stuff, so we don't need to worry about that. So we'll just take one more and we'll use it up here. And like I said, I'll go back and change this later so we can have one volume decal instead of two with advanced patch editing. There we go. I'll probably add some more of these to right here. I'll make this bigger. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I can layer stuff. You know when the map will come out. I can't wait for this one. I'm trying so hard, man. I'm working, I think I said this earlier in the stream, I have a 100-hour work week with this. So I'm working as hard as I can to get this finished. I set an unrealistic goal to have this done by the end of 2018, but that's if I want it rushed and not robust and finished completely. So I'm gonna say, realistically, I'm hoping to have it done sometime between January and March of 2019. I know that's such a long ways away, but I'd rather. I've spent 2 years. I've spent so much time on this map that to release it in a hurry would just be like, why would I even make the map in the first place? if I'm gonna release it and it's gonna have all these bugs and it's gonna not be finished with an Easter egg and stuff. So it's gonna be a little bit, but I'm gonna try and make it as fun and as best as possible. Hopefully by January, March. But I'll make sure that I keep updates on my Twitter and stuff like that so that people can, see that I'm working on it. Awesome. So now we can use some more volume decals because I didn't like how sharp these concrete lines were here. So we can use another volume decal to blend that even further. So we'll put that up to 1 on our blends. We'll reapply the texture to fix it, and there we go. Because now there's going to be dirt down here. And so now, when you look at this, I don't know if you'd played custom maps before or played Treyarch maps and ever went around to kind of see how things are made. I always looked at these walls as one piece, and I always wondered how in the world that they would draw a brush patch to get it to look like this. So just with simple blending methods, using models and brushes at the same time will help you achieve this look. Let's see here. So I know I'm gonna have something to connect this path right here with this, and I don't want it to come out too far because I still want players to be able to see this broken part of the building. So I think I might cut into this building a little bit. There's going to be a lot of debris and destroyed stuff over here, but it's what it's going to have to be like to actually get this to work. So, because that's not part of the prefab. You know what? I'm gonna add it to the prefab. So usually what I do to add stuff to a prefab, oh, these are 2 separate prefabs. Well, what I can do is just go into this one, delete this, replace it in this prefab so I have it to work with, and I think I'm gonna do just that. See, all this is just brick patches. Actually, let me raise this guy up. Let me delete these 2, 3, I think. Yeah. All I gotta do is go back, just put these back down right here. I already like that way a lot better. Being able to see that, actually, that is. Yeah, some things in design decisions that I see and I make in my maps are all made by accident. So I like how this looks a lot better without this wall here. I feel like that gives a lot better sight to what's actually over here. Typically that's not the best for performance, but we'll see how it goes in testing. Well, that's a lot better. I like that a lot. Because I would want a path connecting these 2 diagonally across here and have like a little tunnel or something. So I wouldn't have to come out more out of this. So we'll worry about that later, but we'll go back into this one. Alright, so I want some dirt down here. So we'll use that Cobb dirt slide model. This one's really good if you have World War II. Just go in and rip it out with Wraith. It works in so many different locations. So good. A little bit more fine-tune that. I don't like. And when I ripped this model, I actually ripped the texture off of it and I made it into a model that I could blend on the walls. So it looks like this model is seamlessly part of the wall at the same time. But literally this is just the same texture that they use on the model itself, but I turned it into a volume or a decal reveal texture. So I can blend stuff with that in the ground. It works really well. If you have a lot of models, kind of like these organic ones, just take the texture off of the model and make it into its own separate texture and material that you can use to blend. It always works really well with blending around certain areas. So I'm gonna have more destroyed stuff right here. Maybe I could use probably like a wooden platform or something. I don't know, figuring out what to do over here is gonna be tricky because right now it doesn't look that pretty. I have no clue what we're gonna do. Let's see, look at it from this angle. Maybe we can have this be a jump off. Yeah, it works out. So we don't actually have to have these connected, but we can create this part, a place where you can jump off and fall off, and then we'll put a ramp connecting this to the ground. So we don't have to have a perfect branch. Maybe. I don't know. I'll figure that out probably off stream. That's too much to kind of figure out what to do with that right now. So let's go ahead and mesh this over here. That looks pretty good so far. A little too much. Yeah, it looks nice. And eventually we'll blend these side pieces in with everything else. I'm not going to do that right now, but I'll figure it out. I think we're getting somewhere. It's just this building is so complicated to figure out. Hey Zlane, what's going on? The models from World War II, COD World War II, just use Wraith. It's called Cobb Dirt Slide 1. I think it's in most of the multiplayer maps. So any multiplayer map you load up, it'll be in that file directory. But they got a lot of models like this that are really good for creating mud and dirt. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So, now I want another... I always get into the bad habit of model spamming. It's such a bad habit to get into because I shouldn't rely on having models create your map for you. You should have them to be a polishing aspect. Sometimes I just throw models around to see what looks best, and sometimes I get random ideas from just throwing those models around. So maybe we'll use the same thing over here, but we'll throw a texture on top of it so nobody knows it's the same. And we'll create some depth to this wall here. I talked about that in last stream that I did. Creating depth to your walls will help the player feel more immersed in your environment. Rather than having a flat brick wall somewhere, if you can create a wall that has multiple layers, like a destroyed part that you can see exposed beams behind, it's always going to help the player know they're not really going to look at it. It'll help, you know, enforce the idea that this place actually has a purpose and that there's a story behind everything. Yeah, they are fake tessellated models. Because I was, for the longest time, I don't know if it was like a year ago, but I was like, man, if tessellation was in the tools, I know it's so taxing on systems and stuff, and it's crazy, but that would change levels forever. So when I found that these models, because I remember looking in World War II and I went around all the multiplayer maps and I kind of like studied how they built it, and I looked down on the ground and I was like, how are they getting all that stuff? And it's literally just models like these placed on top of the same texture that they used for models on a terrain patch on the ground. So they do this also with mud. This is mud texture. So they place these on the ground on top of the same texture to help blend it out. So it looks like, yeah, it looks like tessellation, but it's just these models. Which is actually a really cool way of doing it. So you can actually pull that look off in here too, which I've been doing around the map. So, yeah, so I'm gonna take one of these concrete pieces here. Kind of rotate this guy around. Oh, it's the wrong way. And we'll just drop him down a little bit because I don't like how this is right here. Oh. Weird reason why that is angled. Huh. Whoa. Okay, I'll just redo that. Oh my god, I cannot get this to rotate the right way. Okay. Good lord. Okay, there we go. Finally. There we go, we got kind of a better looking concrete. So we got my own, oh god, looking at that makes me want to cry that I have that many polys in there. So I got my own concrete text or model kind of merging with this one to kind of create some different space. So now what we can do is we can do kind of a similar thing of what I did across the map over here, if I can find it. So we'll put some support beams in behind the wall to kind of give it this destroyed look, and then we'll pull some concrete out to kind of give it this fake idea that something else happened there. And then we'll put some remains of what the wall is kind of out here, and kind of like a blood spot to know that players can jump down onto this. And then we'll clip everything. So, usually what I can do is create a simple terrain brush. We'll face to terrain that, we'll delete the bottom, we'll double the patch size, we'll rotate it, we'll put some type of base texture on it, like a ground. I'll just use my custom dirt texture again. I wonder if the mud will look better. Nah. So we'll use that, and then we'll kind of create this dome in here. So we'll pull it up to where the model is, so we know that the exterior vertices are in line with it. We'll kind of grow this a little bit. And then we'll subdivide it again. Actually, that's a little too many polys. And we'll pull these points back. So we know that these are touching the surface, so we're good with that. So I'm going to create some more cuts around the edges so that we have a little more control over what we do. So I'm going to pull all these out. Pull these back. And now we're going to get these interior ones and pull them back a little more. And now we'll just go through and add some diversity in these, because now it's too perfect. We got to pull some and push some back up towards the front, so it looks more natural, like a landscape. And we'll push some over to the sides, pull some up and around. Just any way you can get it to make it look like you didn't put this terrain here is always the best way to do it. So that's concaved. You know, it's pretty good. It's believable that something else happened here. So now we can take a model. Actually, first I'm going to put the day terrain texture on that. That's good. Now what we can do is, that's weird. We can put some models in here. Usually I like to do wood planks because it always looks good combined with the mud texture. So we can take this right here and we'll flip him up. Kind of increase his size just a little bit. He's a little too small to be a support beam. I'll make him 2 because we don't have anything below us. We'll pull him a little bit to the front. And now we can start creating layers inside of our wall here. So not just creating depth, but creating multiple layers in and out always creates an interesting dynamic with walls. It's a little too much. And we also want to remember the same rule that we have over here with sets of 3 and 5. That way we can get the best look for what we want. So, I think I'll do the same thing I did, is have 6 different posts, but have one that's broken kind of off here in the middle. I'll pull this guy over just a little bit more. He's a little too. Okay, we'll copy him. Pull this guy over. Rotate him a little bit. A little too much. And we also don't want them to be on the same layer. Because then, again, it's too perfect. So getting some multiple layers of depth in here is always going to look the best. We'll pull him over a little bit. It's a little weird looking. We'll pull this guy over here for the time being. So copy and paste this guy, put another one in. This guy will be right here. We'll push him back a lot more. So he's kind of hanging out back there. Now I don't want that broken piece to be in the middle because then it's too symmetrical. So we always want to think in odd groups, so we don't want anything to be perfectly balanced. So we got to put one of these guys in the middle that is full. We'll rotate him back. We'll copy and paste him, and we'll find a broken piece of wood. Rotate him all the way around. And we'll kind of slump him down here. Alright, so now that we have our group of 3 and 1, now we want to make sure that we can, we're thinking in the right direction. We have our, like I said, our group of 3, our broken piece that kind of distracts the viewer. But now we want to make sure that the spacing between all of these isn't exactly the same, because people will be able to pick up a pattern. So the more you can variate what you're doing, the better it's going to look for a viewer just passing by. If somebody doesn't notice it, usually it's better design. It's kind of like with sound. If you ever watched a video or played a game that has really bad sound, you always remember it. But if it has really good sound, usually you don't spend too much time thinking about why it has good sound. You just are immersed in the environment. So if people don't talk about it, is usually the best. So now that's a little more varied up. And there's also a group of 5. also subdivided it into a group of 3 and 1, and distracted in the middle we have that broken piece. So this is the kind of the things that I think about when I'm going around and I'm building stuff, is always to think in odd groups, because that helps build your design 10 times more if you just think about it in that way. It's also easier because then you know you can stick to a group of 3 and you have a plan already. You don't have to think about what you're going to put there. You just know it's going to be a group of 3 or 5, and then you can just decide what model to use and what to do with that. So now that we kind of got that, there's not too much more I would do with it, because the more you add, the less it detracts from your actual thought process and design. So, but it still is looking a little too bland. I don't know why. Probably this exterior part. So I'll create a terrain patch right here. We'll bring this over. We'll kind of line this guy up. We'll fix him. Or not. There we go. So I'm gonna double patch this twice. Bring these guys a little bit more forward so we don't see that clipping. Oh Jesus, I was zoomed in pretty far. There we go. Just a little bit of that right here. And a little bit more. Alright, so now we can throw a decal on this. That might be too much mud. Like I said, those models are just there to help me visualize what I want. So we'll go through and we'll make sure we can line this up around. We'll get rid of these inner ones because that's where our hole is. So we're going to make sure that the influence is just around where the concrete is. Go ahead and reapply the texture to make sure it's fitting. And it's a little too strong. Probably go up here and decrease the amount. And I'll probably change it from mud since there's so much of that around. Let's see what we got over here. It's a little bit better. Not exactly what I'm wanting. Not entirely. That's a little better. We're getting there. I guess we'll just keep it this for right now. I know it's not going to stay that way. But yeah. Plus once we build the sun, these won't be lit up. We'll put like a light back in here. Maybe like up on the top, or a spotlight or something coming out from it to kind of give it that light effect and stuff. Alright. So I think this is pretty good so far. We still have a lot of work to do with these details. Plus the lighting will change everything. Once we delete all these fake lights and we actually go in and actually think about where the lighting's going to go. So we're going to put a light here through the window so we can attract the viewer's attention when they're coming this way, so they'll see that. We also have to figure out how we're going to get the player to go down this way too. So we have to put interesting aspects at both of these points. So now we're going to create some sort of lighting in here. This is really good. This is a really good attraction piece. So lots of different spaces between. I don't know. I want it to be confusing over here, but if you know it, it's going to work well. And eventually it'll lead over here to our handy dandy teleporter machine. So what to go in, I'll fill in kind of some debris here because this is a floor that's going to be broken. And kind of just work around that. I think it's looking good so far though. I'll see if I can stream again at some point on Sunday. I know the Black Ops 4 beta open beta for PC's coming out, so I'm going to be doing that. But I think I'm going to wrap the stream up today since it's already been 2.5 hours. But I'll see if I can stream again on Sunday. We'll work on this part. I won't work on this off screen until Sunday, so it can kind of be like a series that will work kind of on this on camera. So, yep. Thanks everybody who came out to watch this. Hopefully you can pick up a couple things from what I do and how I build my maps, and kind of like a deeper thought process of what goes on and what I think about before I even start an area. Usually those things that I've said today work really well, and I haven't had issues with that with areas looking gross. So the odd rule to 3 and 5, and anything with blending and creating a place for viewers to see things and to attract them is always really important. Once again, thank you very much. I'll see if I can stream again sometime soon. Hopefully I can get some time period between now and Sunday that I can set up for Sunday. So I'll put it out on Twitter if I need to. And thanks for coming out. Thank you, Charles. I'm glad I can inspire you. Oh. Did you watch the whole stream? Were you here the whole time? Because that's crazy if you were.